Welcome to this course on Xamarin.ios. Now this course is for you if you are a novice C# programmer. If you are not quite a novice programmer yet, you're still a beginner, then I include an optional, very short section on the basics of C# programming, such as variables, manipulation classes, and methods. Then once you're up to speed with that, we're going to go through creating our very first Xamarin.ios app. I'll drop you a task and a solution for that. Then we're going to speed on and look at the basic UI and the brand new Xamarin Designer, specifically designed for iOS apps. We'll look at how to add switches, sliders, progress bars, colors, and we'll look at a very important topic like threading. Then we'll move on to table views, how to create them, how to create their data source. We'll also look at something that's highly requested on iOS, and that's to make an index with sections for your table. We'll then extend that knowledge to collection views on Xamarin.ios, which isn't something that's covered very often out there in tutorials, but that's why I've put it in here, so you can get a good solid grounding in it. We'll also look at layout types in Xamarin.ios or just iOS in general. Things like a single view app, master detail, tabbed apps, which are very common, page apps like Kindle, so we have automatic animations for that, and finally web view apps. I'm going to extend your C# knowledge if you don't know any of this already, and talk about events, protocols, and delegates, and especially how they relate to UI events such as pressing a button. We'll then move on to some resource management, where resources reside inside of our app. We'll look at how to add images, app icons, and launch screens. Those last two are necessities if you want to publish on the App Store. Then we're going to do something a bit more fun. We're going to have some animation classes. I'm going to show you how to use the UIKit class to animate things like images, buttons, text, whatever it may be. Then we'll dig a bit deeper to give us a bit more control with implicit animations. And finally, we'll get a lot more control with explicit animations that allow us to do things like move an image around the screen on a certain path. It also allows us to blend from one color to another color over time. In concert with that, we're going to look at the file system on iOS, how everything is structured, where to store your files, and especially where not to store your files. We'll learn how to create and read both files and directories, append text to files and save them, and finally I'll give you a task that combines the file system with background asynchronous threading. Then we'll look at more internet-based components such as JSON. Firstly, what is JSON? How to install a component to use it easily, and then how to write JSON from objects and to read JSON to objects. This section is such a common requirement for mobile applications that I'd advise you do not skip it. Then we will also look at working with web calls. We will discover that Apple has implemented transport security in iOS 9 and what that means for our apps, also how to disable it or add exceptions for it. Then we'll create our very own low-level web requests that give us all the control we could ever want from that. And then after we've understood what a web request is, we'll look at installing the REST-Sharp component that allows us to run off web requests without any hassle in a couple of lines. That's all I've put in for now, but if you take this course and you watch the very last lecture, you'll discover how you can ask me to create any topic you like on Xamarin.ios, add it to this course for free, which allows you to access it without paying any more money. Okay, with all of that said, let's get going. This is a very large course with a lot of lectures, so let's discuss how you should go about using it. First of all, if you are a complete beginner to C# programming, please take the optional section, it's labeled optional, that teaches you basic C# ideas. Then I would advise you to actually go and do a couple of web tutorials, a few YouTube tutorials, and then come back to this course for Xamarin. And those tutorials can be anything to do with C#. Now, if you already know how to program and a bit of C#, then you can skip this section on C# programming. The idea of this course is for you to follow it section by section all the way to the end, to get the ideas implemented into your head. Then later on in the future, when you are creating your own Xamarin apps and you become stuck and don't quite know what to do, you can come back to this course and find the applicable section, watch the 20 to 30 minutes that it takes for each one, and then immediately have the knowledge to go back and recreate your app. So the whole idea behind this course is time saving. I want you to make apps and I want you to make them quickly. Let's cover how to install and set up our development environment. Obviously, we're using Xamarin, so head over to xamarin.com, click the products, and click Xamarin Platform. You should have a link that's easily available. It says download now for free, so go ahead and do that. You'll have to enter a few details about yourself, and then click Download Xamarin for OS X. Once downloaded, open up the DMG file and double-click Install Xamarin. Xamarin will take you through the entire process that you need. But first of all, of course, you have to agree to some license terms, and it will download and install your prerequisites as well as the Android SDKs, and the same thing for iOS. So if I click Continue, it gets the Mono framework, Xamarin Studio, and the Xamarin products. Hit Continue, and everything will be downloaded and installed for you. Now, whilst that's happening, because we need to compile our app for iOS, let's head on over to the App Store on your Mac and search for Xcode. Xcode is Apple's own development environment for making iOS and Mac apps using Swift and Objective-C. Click on the first result, and once you're taken into it, click the Install button and wait for it to install. Mine says Open because I already have this installed. Once you've downloaded Xcode, keep leaving Xamarin to download and do its thing. Open up Xcode, and it's within Xcode that we set up our iOS simulators that will be available to Xamarin. Click Window, Devices, and inside here we have a list of simulated devices. These should come pre-installed with Xcode, but if they don't, you can hit the bottom left plus icon and you can add a simulator. You can give it a name, you can choose which version of iOS you want to give it. If you don't have a current version downloaded, you can choose from previous versions of iOS. Once you've downloaded that, you can select the type of device that this version runs on. Then you can go ahead and click Create. So once you've done that, you've installed the simulators, you can quit Xcode, and those simulators will be available later on when you come to use Xamarin.